Welcome to Creativity Nuggets. I'm glad you could join me today. On this episode, we're going to explore one of the absolute fundamentals of art as we look at painting and also make a painting. Now, of course, calling it one of the fundamentals of art is subjective, but then again, if you can't transcribe something real, or better yet, something from your imagination, onto the page, you might want to start questioning yourself about that. You might be a untalented hack, forever cursed. Well, don't fret, because today I'm going to walk you through my whole process of painting a picture, start to finish, in a loose, part blog, part tutorial kind of way. Because even though I am an absolute amateur, I can still tell others how to do things just fine. My way. As for why I'm doing this, it's mainly to test my chops on the subject, as I'm not perfect, despite my efforts to come across that way. I've done a few paintings in the past, never going for any one style or method, so I'm confident in myself enough to know that I will at least produce something. The only thing different here is that the canvas I'll be using will be the biggest I've ever painted on, by far. I mean, it's massive. Just looking at it scares me. So that's great. I decided I wanted to paint something. First step done. What comes next is actually deciding what it is you want to paint. I had little clue at this point, but I knew I wanted to do something different from what I'd painted before. Looking back through all my previous work, I noticed that most of them are a portrait with just a single character in them. At that, I decided I wanted to do a landscape. And if I was going to do a landscape, I wanted to try and paint something real. So I went through my photos and eventually chose this. Yeah, good enough. Step 2's done. Okay. With the photo selected, I made a few more parameters for myself. First, the composition in the photo isn't too great, so I'd be able to play around with it to my liking, make everything look nice. I made this quick sketch to test, and honestly, I'm pretty happy with it. I noted the sketch could easily be broken down into 3 distinct sections. What, you can't see them? With this knowledge and the fact that I would be using fast-drying paint, I concluded that I could finish the painting in no less than 3 work periods. I then lengthened this to 3 days, and I had my time limit. Setup was quite easy, as since I've painted before, everything was right there ready for me. I had bought a nice selection of acrylic paints from the dollar store, I had the easel set up, the brushes also from the dollar store. The only thing I had left to do was get painting. So that's what I did. Now, it looks like I'm off to a great start here, and why wouldn't it? I mean, what could go wrong? I literally just started, but one of the shortcomings I failed to notice was in those little tiny brush sets I got, there wasn't one that was even remotely big enough to even tackle painting on something this big, especially when you're starting out doing a sky like this. That's what I'm doing the sky. Whatever, it's not turning out so good, and quickly this frustrated me, and that's not something you want. You wanna have a pretty good start. You wanna hit the ground running. Soon you'll see I end up giving into a much more rugged, brash, downright messy approach in a moment of weakness, and I apologize. But I have my reasons. There. It's okay to cheat a little bit. Let's see how much this is. That is far more than what can be done with a little brush. So if you don't have brushes, use your hand. Results are way better. Wow, okay. Will I live to regret this? I don't know. My hand is gonna come off in flakes, and it's gonna make everything sticky. Keep on with doing it old school. I don't know. Is it the best thing to do? Is it really the best option? This is the biggest brush I have. This is the biggest brush I have. It's a big glob. I need to paint this whole thing. I don't know what kind of commentary I can squeeze out of my slowly deteriorating brain with this. But you're most likely going to get a time lapse of me painting in this whole thing. And yes, you will be spared the pain. And there's nothing much to see after that. I'm just painting in the grass. You know, painting the grass, doing short, sharp strokes upward for each individual blade of grass. And it gets tiring. Once again, working with a very small brush, doing that whole thing, it took a lot longer than it should have, I'll tell you that. Yes, I'm all done, nearly done here, just so nearly done. How are these guys doing? Ending on the first day, I'll definitely say that it leveled my expectations. I'd only worked with acrylic once before for this, and that's the horse painting you saw previously. And I didn't know how quickly I had to act in order to blend colors, and that doesn't really lend itself well to something with little to no plan as this project did. However, at this point it was still just only a sky and a blank empty field. There was no train, no stores. Expectations were leveled, but I was still quite optimistic for the next day. All right, second time. So I guess I technically broke one of my rules. Whatever, doesn't matter. Yeah, they is the more background elements. Just, you know, getting a bit closer each and every time. Where to start? Naturally, I started with the trees, the furthest away element in the background, which I had to think about. Another thing with painting, I figured out it's different than drawing, where when you're drawing, you're just, you know, you're sketching into the thing, and painting, it's completely different. You're sketching it in and you're painting it at the same time. So with things like trees, you can literally be done them in one single motion. It all depends on the execution. That's the important part. It's just a single motion and it's done. You know, I had to learn this. And another thing with background objects is, if you're not aware, they need to be less detailed than the ones in the foreground, going closer. And that begs the question, how detailed do you want this thing to be? Which I was abruptly reminded of shortly after painting these trees. So, look at the footage. More just black voids where the light should touch. I think what led to what's coming up here is my over-reliance on shading things with black. This again comes from sketching, where the only color you're working with is black, and when you're shading things, of course, you shade it in with black. I got too used to this, and it doesn't produce satisfactory results. This all comes to a head when I try painting the road, and I have too much black on my brush, and it just has a huge glob right there on the painting, and that's when I break. That's when I lose it. In my head, it's just, I don't care anymore. I try to fix it the best I can, but it's no use. The road went from dirt to paved, and I just started doing the houses like whatever.
Yeah, that's the roof of the place. Well, it's also got doors and a window. Same with this one. It's got a roof.
You know, they don't look so good, but it's a complete cartoon. But in hindsight, I'll tell you right now, the houses are my favorite part of the image. For that reason.
Nice little house.
After this, I try a bit harder to incorporate some of the colors I made into the previously painted parts, like the sky and the big Cheeto mound I made. None of it goes the way I'd want it to, and you can hear my thoughts as I finish up, and I'm just completely disenfranchised with the whole thing.
From far away, it actually looks better. Up close, I don't know. See what happened to that tree? Here's that mound. I like the depth shown in the roof here. Trees are looking good. How far away? Yeah. That is respectable.
And that's day 2 for you. Going into day 3, it was a little surreal given that my whole perspective had completely changed between days 2 and 3. Realism was down the toilet at this point as well, and it was at least nice knowing that I could be a little bit more relaxed while painting, not as tense. The telephone poles I'm actually kind of proud of because I incorporate a 2-color shading in. I think it looks all right. But after this, I was still a little bit weary to do the train.
I almost don't want to do it. How much can a giant black square detract from an image? Because worst comes to worst, that's just what's going to be there. It's going to be like part of the image has been censored. You know, giant black bar. People might not know it's even a train.
For what I did, I don't think it looks that bad. It is a big black blob, but the train is a big black blob. Try saying that 5 times fast in the picture. And I don't just use black. I use black and a slightly less dark black. I incorporate my strokes into adding depth. I do everything I know in order to make it look like what the picture is. What really surprises me is what I do next, and that's the second car. And the thing with that is it's all red. In the photo, it's just painted one solid color. So naturally, that's what I do. I get the color and I paint it. The biggest surprise of this is, I'm not joking, like 15 seconds, I take red on the brush and I take a little bit of black on the brush simultaneously, and I just paint all the shading in.
Hey, if we could achieve one thing here today, that'll be good enough. Nice, I'm getting excited again.
And it's done like that. And that's the biggest thing I learned throughout this whole project, is that you can do stuff like that, big stuff, in that short of an amount of time. The rest is pretty standard. Paint by numbers, like painting numbers and doing the little details on the train itself. That I wasn't so concerned about as much as actually doing the train and everything else.
And with that, I think that completes the train painting. I'm gonna have to call time on this one. Not much more I can add to it that I can even think of. All in all, I did try to go realistic with it at first. Then I realized it wasn't really going. I just gave it my best shot from there, trying to do everything with the stuff I had. All these dollar store acrylic paints here. This is the product of their work and my talent, my raw talent onto the canvas here. This is what you're seeing.
And that concludes this project. For a debut, I'd say I'm decently proud of the whole thing. I knew I wanted to do painting for the first episode, but I didn't know this would be the result. Anyways, it's all in the rear view mirror now. And with that, thank you for watching.